The first question that I would like to ask would be, just tell me, how did this entire thing come around?
I grew up in Hyderabad. So Hyderabad, it's as soon as you're born, you decide engineer or doctor. Once you finish your engineering, then MS in the US. That is the standard, or MBA. So SIMC had this the mass comm course had an MBA or postgraduate diploma, or they called it, in advertising. In the first year, every single advertising class I attended, I have been bored out of my wits because it had nothing to do with advertising. It had everything to do with all kinds of other things. So I realized that filmmaking course, at least they went out to make films. You could tell stories. And that's when I realized maybe that is my calling. I'm a storyteller. Let me go tell stories. We all grew up with MTV and channel music, television. Music videos is in the back of your head. So I said, okay, I'm going to intern at Channel V. And that is technically the beginning of my so-called professional journey. And 2009, we started Glitch. Again, the accidental entrepreneurs, as we call it, right? We started doing a lot of digital first videos. The first 1 year was just convincing and educating people that, if it's digital, it's a two-way medium. It's not just one way. So we started making content that started becoming interactive. Around 2011, somebody who was working with us, and we were, as in a client of ours, turned to us and said, you guys are giving me all these strategy ideas, etc. Tum log agency ho kya? You don't know how to say no. So you're like, yeah, agency hai. So we got called, just like that. Yes, yes, why not? That's what happened. I remember going back and cracking our heads around what is an agency pitch going to look like. We put together what we thought is the best way to market, whatever, and we went and presented it. They loved it. We became an agency on board for them, and we got our first client. Unilever is at street. Okay, what we call it as shopping street. See, you do one good thing, right, and immediately word spread. So suddenly the other brand manager who's walking by is like, "You did that campaign. No, come here. I have a brief for you." And that is how we started growing.
How did the name Glitch come into being?
हमारे पास बहुत सारे कहानियां हैं इसके अराउंड तो एक जो the cool story that we keep generally saying is that both Varun and I are huge Sholay fans. So we thought we were going to call ourselves Jay Viru and Company. And that was the actual name. Till at some point we turned around and said, "यार लेकिन अगर यूरोप को expand करना पड़ेगा ना, how will we explain this in to clients in Southeast Asia and Europe कि Jay Viru कौन है, etc." And we started laughing about it. And there happens to be this one guy who was at Channel V at that point of time, who, for lack of a better explanation, we think that God made him at 30 frames per second, but rendered him at 24. So he had उसमें एक ऐसा he had that twitch. So it looked like people would look at him and saying like, "ये क्या इतना ऐसा glitch है उसमें?" Because you ask him something, he would go, "Yeah, who? Me?" So he would have like one frame missing in his hand movement. He moves slowly, then one would jump like that. So it's like, since somebody mentioned इसमें glitch है. So like
You are funny
that word stuck.
talking about it. Your video is also glitching. By the way, I saw the Glitch का website and it's banging, bro. मतलब मैं ऐसा फिदा है भवतु हो.
Thank
So
you. That's great to hear because the brief was actually that from our end, right? Who goes to an agency website? A client never goes to an agency website. Let's admit it, because the client will only ping somebody if they get to know and say, "Send us your credits deck." If they go through your credits deck, big deal. You only have to go and show it to them. 9 out of 10 times, it's people who want to come work for you who come to agency website. So whatever we do has to reflect our culture and has to like you have to see the site and say, "मेरे को इधर काम करना है." Or if somebody says, "मेरे को इनके साथ काम करना है." So that is the brief. So whatever you do, you have to wow them, and that was the core brief that was worked on. And then we said, okay, now went to your first. What do you want? You want to put anime? Put anime. You want to put Godzilla? Put Godzilla.
but do you see that the website, that the importance of a website has kind of uh, narrowed down or kind of reduced because of the social media influx, or do you still feel that's just a phase?
Social media is like a mall. Website is a standalone showroom. You have to give you a so in a mall there are already people walking around and they happen to see you and they say, "Oh, this is a nice thing." So now getting people only to a website, etc., is a tough ask. But then do something. This is what it is, right? We have a line which is do something audacious. Do something audacious that gets people's attention. Ki like, bro, kya hai? I mean, if you have bad design in your website, right? So there are times when you see a great product advertised, but then when I go to their main this thing, it just feels कि ये finish तो नहीं होगा ये product का, because the website का finish नहीं है, then I will walk away. So it is important. Is it important as a standalone thing? Uh, it does add value. It's more a add-on than anything else.
Can you tell me your favorite work from your own portfolio?
There was a ice cream brand called Cornetto that came to us and said, the brief was very simple. Valentine's Day, we want to own Valentine's Day. We did something called the Cupidity call center, which technically meant that whoever in the country on that day, whatever you tweeted to us, we will make that into a song. So we had 14 different people, musicians dressed as cupids, waiting there. And on our Twitter feed, every time a tweet came, whatever you wrote, you said, "Hi, baby, how are you?" This guy would immediately compose a song saying, "Hi, baby, how are you?" and send it back to you as a video. The audacity of the idea of saying that we will make 4,000 videos in a day of this, the ability to then translate that into content, which is having this whole setup where so many videos could be shot parallelly. So 4,000 odd requests that came in, all 4,000 will be shot. And then the technology to go ahead and distribute these 4,000 videos simultaneously to the people that you're asking for. So all of these three things put together in a span of 10 days, it was the most maddening 10 days we have gone through. And that same audaciousness is so important. And that is really a essence of what we do when the kind of work we do. Like, even like as of last year, for example, when the pandemic hit, we went into lockdown, right? One of our clients is Netflix. And there were comments and people started talking about saying ki, like, now everybody is now come on to Netflix, right, to start watching, because they have or kuch nahi hai karne ko, they started watching. And then somebody made the statement saying, shit, if we're not going to be shooting, what will Netflix put out? Agar shoot nahi ho raha hai, to what is Netflix? Will entertainment come to a standstill? So we are like, this is a great time for Netflix to turn around and own the space to say, no matter what, entertainment abhi baki hai mere dost type of thing. It will always go on. So we, again, the audacity of turning around and saying lockdown mein हम generally promo बनाते हैं ना, हम लोग ad बनाते हैं. Here we are like, we will make a full series which is going to be 4 stories, all 4 shot at home in the lockdown remotely. We called it Home Stories, and I'll send you a link. You should. So, and nobody had done it at that point of time. So then I think Amazon, etc., have done movies and films have come out, but this was the first one at that point. So when you ask me what is the work, it's not necessarily, when I show you the work, you may look at it and say, इससे अच्छा film तो तुमने बनाया है, या इससे अच्छा कोई काम हो सकता है portfolio. The story behind it and the audacity of doing what you did at that point of time, or to have thought what you thought, that is generally what gives me the kicks.
How did you manage to uh, keep yourself relevant?
I personally, to stay relevant, a few things that I do. One is, if I take the designation out from a point of view and say, let's come into the brainstorm as creative people, we're all sitting here to listen. You have an idea and I have an idea. Maybe I have 4 years more experience than you do, but that doesn't change anything in this equation. That is a great leveler. Two, I work with a lot of startups. So what? And I work with a lot of these young minds. They have all of these younger lot, right? They've given the growth hacks of what they try to get this thing in is great learning. To stay relevant, you have to hang around with the relevant side. And if you're hanging around with the relevant set of people, you have to not hang around with a point of authority.
What real difference do you see between the generations like ours and the newer kids?
Largely, I think what sets them apart is the word choices, right? This is a generation that is born into choices. You and I, for example, we're the Doordarshan generation. We didn't have a choice. We had to watch what was given to us. Generation right now is like, if I want to watch an ad, I will watch an ad. If I want to skip an ad, I will skip an ad. So I can't. This is a generation that cannot be told what to do. They come from a certain amount of clarity of thought. So don't tell them, show them what it can do and leave it to them.
Any piece of work that has inspired you in some way?
It's a huge canvas to play around with. But you know what? I'll tell you one of my favorite pieces. I love all these underdog type stories. So I think in that front, Newcastle Beer did this great campaign during a Super Bowl. So we don't have the budget to make an ad, and we don't have the budget to buy an ad spot. So what they did is they made an ad about if we had the budget, what would we do?
We would have opened on a desert island where a castaway washes ashore. He spots a bottle of Newcastle brown ale, pops it open, and boom, like 200 women in bikinis would have appeared. And they're led by award-winning, extremely well-respected actress Anna Kendrick. And she's wearing nothing but body paint. It's sexy, but tasteful. Anna says,
"Let's turn this up."
And instantly it turns into the greatest party of all time, with everything you can imagine. Even party sharks in a conga line. But uh-oh, what's that noise? Bwah, da, 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 bwah. Hundreds of evil, hyper-intelligent apes. They start destroying everything. And then, bam! This huge, evil robot rises from the water.
Destroy all humans.
This isn't CGI. This would have been a real, crazy, expensive robot. But then wait, here come the skateboarding CGI cats to save the day. Or maybe they're teacup pigs. Or cats, we haven't decided. The lead cat is voiced by Keyshawn Johnson. He hits one of the evil apes right in the junk with a bottle of Newcastle and delivers some sassy line like, "Deal with it." Just great slapstick comedy. And Anna Kendrick says,
"Hey, giant robot, game over."
and she leads the crowd in a massive unified dance. The power of partying destroys the robot like boff. It's beautiful. You would have cried in front of all your friends. And boom, we would have unveiled one of those bands that yells "hey" a lot. And they're playing their hit single with all the lyrics changed so they're about Newcastle. Then Max the Newcastle party dog gives our hero a high five. Hashtag Newcastle makes a party an even better party. You'd be thinking, man, this ad is the best movie I've seen all year. I love when Newcastle Brown Ale markets to me. And then America would have sold out of Newcastle. And you would have emailed the ad to your mum. And a million years from now, when the broadcast signal of this epic commercial finally reached the alien planet of Deplar 4, the entire race of Deplarians would have watched it and used their uni-mind to have one single thought. Which roughly translates to, man, I bet that commercial sold a lot of beer. Epic explosion to logo.
It's something that stuck to me, saying somebody who's taken all of these restrictions and come out on top, that just like stood right there for me. Last year there was that, I don't know if you've seen, It's a Tide ad. So basically they hijacked every single ad in the world by saying, अगर कोई सफेद शर्ट पहना है ना, जिसका सफेद शर्ट है, तो वो Tide ad.
Yeah, just your typical Super Bowl car ad. Right? Or a hilarious beer ad. Or whatever ad this is. Whatever. But it's a Tide ad.
What?
It's a Tide ad.
What makes it a Tide ad?
There are no stains. Look at those clean clothes. What else would this be an ad for?
Diamonds?
A gift that lasts forever. No, Tide.
It's time for a cold refreshment.
Tide ad.
Fall into the sleep of
No. Tide. No. Tide ad. Extreme.
No. Tide.
Tide!
Meet the all-new.
No, it's a Tide ad. Tide.
So, does this make every Super Bowl ad a Tide ad?
I think it does. Watch and see.
So what's your bit? Jelly, queso?
Sorry, what?
Tide Super Bowl commercial. Gotta have a thing.
Yeah, you know I can't tell you that, Terry.
I had a thing. My thing was barbecue.
Looks like it still is.
Oh, man.
Like I said last time also, it's not just one film that stands out, it's the entire thought.
Invariably, you will have the youngest kids who will come and ask you the most difficult ones to answer. One of these questions has been, what do I do to become creative? Or how do I know that I can become a creative professional?
Wow, that's actually a really tough question. The litmus test that we use when you're trying to solve a problem, if you have the most uh, different solve to a problem, right? So then your idea is that is what a creative. I'm not saying it's the right or the wrong creative thing,
Well, the
but the
first
thing is, yeah, I'm saying when a brief comes in, right? So when a client sends a brief, when we sit there, and there are times that somebody answers it, and we turn around and ask this question, saying, could the client have come up with this idea? If it is, then it's not worth his time to pay you money to do this. Can you give me the unobvious solve to this thing? And that's technically my answer to what is how creative you are. So how do you get creative? Is you'll only get creative by asking questions. Journalism, there was a chapter called 5W1H: who, where, what, which, how. I don't know if it applies. I mean, it really applies to journalism for sure, but it will also apply to all of us from a creative point of view. And I keep saying this: the brief is always 3D. Brief has X, Y, Z axis. Don't look at it just as a flat object. उसको थोड़ा side से देखो, तब creative idea मिलेगा. The more questions you ask, the more creative you become. Because you'll be like, okay, get to the root of what the problem is. De Bono has written a bunch of those books, right? So those Edward De Bono's lateral thinking ones. He asked me this question once, saying that how do you, if there was a eat as much as you can buffet in a place, and they wanted to reduce people, reduce the quantity of food people are taking, what is the best way to do it? And you're thinking like eat as much as you can, like give them an hour ka notice, like you eat as much as you can in 1 hour. You can eat as much as you can only for one serving. So these are the different answers that you would come up with. Finally, the actual great answer was make the plate heavy. When the plate is really heavy, tum kitna der pakdoge? The problem is you are always asking the question that you think is the question there. Ask the next set of questions. The answers to that will lead to your biggest solve a lot of times. So back in the day, whenever there were songs playing, right? So there used to be, we used to have something called ringtones, where you could your caller tune basically, right? So caller tune was basically jo gana baj raha hai, you SMS this number, and then that caller tune comes to your phone. That number, that thing would come at the bottom right of the screen, channel ka. So they wanted to make that a property, because obviously there's a lot of money to be made. Every time a song got requested, you got money on this. Now they wanted people's attention to come to the bottom right of the screen, and they wanted a promo made for that. And for one full week, everybody's trying to crack a brief ki like ye kya karna chahiye isme, till somebody cracked this at the last minute. And I remember when somebody cracks a great idea, that confidence that person comes with. He just sits there with the confidence that he does, looks at the CD with those eyes and says, "Cracked it." And she's like, "Okay, what's the idea?" He's like, "Right bottom." And she's like, "That's the brief. What is the idea?" Not the wrong bottom, the right bottom.
What are the few things that a young professional would need to possess for a door like Glitch to open?
We're an agency. Don't tell us things. Show us things. We'll listen to you. So show, don't tell as an approach is great. You can have a degree from Harvard for all you care. End of the day, nobody reads a resume as much as they see a portfolio, depending on what kind of a job you're looking for, right? You're a young kid wanting to work in the creative side of it, show us your creative. It's as simple as this. I have had people who write to me saying that, "Hey, I've gone through your Glitch website. I've seen the kind of brands you work with. Here are my 4 points." And this is for internship. Somebody's written, "Here are my four points on how I would deal with this brand." Now, his resume I don't know if he's passed his 10th standard or if he's done this. All that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is this guy has had a point of view on so and so.
Do you have a point of view on how, like, even if it's Fantasia, tomorrow's creativity kya rahega?
If you ask me from that dystopian future of will machines take over our jobs, for example, anything that is that has a pattern to it, right? The minute you do things that have a pattern to it, that becomes that's very easy to replicate. Then that is something that AI can now do. Anything that can be put into a pattern will get automated. So from a future point of view, what will stay? The bronze will be gone. The brains is what will stay. What is very obvious to the newer generation is actually insight for us. Like I met this somebody in my building, and he was telling me about how he's building a robot. I was like, so what? How are you coding it? And have you learned code, etc.? And he just looked at me like, "Tum kaun se Adam ke zamane ko?" He's like, code and all is so 2001. Now the future is no code. So he gave me a damn. I was just listening to this boy talking. Like, I work on this thing, which is a gaming thing. I make my own games, which means I don't know how to code, but I know the science of making the product. Now, tomorrow, when I grow up, I can use whatever code is relevant at that point in time. We can use that in our space in advertising, which used to be copywriting and art. Copy and art being the two sides of one department. The creative department was just those two. Now, in art, it's not just single, it's motion, it's code, it's this. I used to say this to people in my own team, saying that you have to keep upskilling. So if you're an art director, you decide that design mein kar sakta hu. Now design plus what? Design plus code or design plus motion. If you ask me the future, future is no longer one. A singular knife will not suffice. You need to be a Susami knife.
5 things you cannot work without.
So I'm very old school like that. So I need pen and paper are definitely right. You can give me anything. Like, yeah, I need an iPad and I need the machine. But pen to paper is very, very important. A coffee is a must. Yeah, everything else I can. Internet.
What are the things that piss you off?
Can I say Comic Sans? Like, nothing pisses me off than bad design. What really pisses me off is when there's a great idea and you go and make a mess of the execution. Yeah, I think it's bad design or like basically a bad execution of a good idea.
So it is for me. It has been. I knew I was going to enjoy this conversation. Okay, but I didn't think that I was going to learn as much as I have whilst talking to you. And I'm saying that with the fact that, like, I see you as an equal. Okay, but today with all the success you have found, how beautifully grounded you remain. Okay, that in itself for me is something that I would like to learn more. Okay, I wish you all the luck, and I hope you find far more success than you already have.
Thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed the last 2 hours that we spent chatting, and I can't wait to I can't wait to do this in person. So done for sure.
Thank you so much, man, and hopefully this will be another rewarding TeeTox for the rest of the kids and rest of the people who are watching.